I have a second channel, Cube Compium TDX.
Hey everybody. So it's been about a year now since things really started to shut down as far as the pandemic goes. So for me personally, it was back in late March is when I transitioned from um, regular work to totally working from home. And later in the summer last year, I started to transition back to some like mixed working from home and also working on site. But for a lot of people, the social distancing, the working from home, it took a lot of big adjustments. And let's not forget the kids having to do distance learning from home instead of being in the classroom. Just imagine, guys, if it weren't for technology, can you imagine how things would be? Without computers, without phones, without tablets, without the internet. Could you imagine? Could you imagine getting through this pandemic without technology? I mean, if it wasn't for internet, if it wasn't for computers, if it wasn't for phones and tablets and all that good stuff, working from home for many types of work would be nearly impossible. There would still have to be some reporting to work. And like I say, depending on the kind of work you'd be doing, I just can't imagine how it could be accomplished. And just think, if it wasn't for email, if it wasn't for video chat, video conferencing, all that good stuff, working from home would be so much more difficult, if not impossible, for certain positions. I mean, it's crazy to think. I mean, so I work in higher education as my regular job, and we transitioned from, at least the area I'm in, was almost 100% on campus because it had to do with engineering and electronics and circuits and stuff, hands on. And in short notice, once the pandemic started, we had to transition to a distance learning model, which involved the equivalent of an online class. So you have to think, for college classes and also K through 12, it's just crazy. I can't imagine being a young child in school right now. But could you imagine how kids would have been able to learn anything from home if it weren't for the internet and video conferencing? Because that's how a lot of the distance learning actually took place. The kids would sign into their tablets or computers through WebEx, Zoom, Teams, or what have you, and they would do the classwork virtually. And it's just crazy. I mean, it's crazy to think, if it weren't for technology, how would a lot of stuff been possible? Of course, when the pandemic started, online shopping exploded. More than ever, people were ordering like essential products online, stuff that you normally go to the store to get. Even stuff like that, ordered online, either through a site like Amazon or through other sites like, I don't know, Instacart, for example. Depending on where you're shopping, you could order stuff online and pick up at the store. I mean, you have to sit back and think about just how technology really helped us get through this pandemic. It's something I thought about when things first started shutting down. It's like, if it weren't for having computers and the internet, things would be crazy. Now you think about it, in some cases, the way we're doing things right now is not exactly the best substitute for the way things were done. For example, with kids, I personally think kids will be better off in school. But I mean, you just think if it weren't for technology, you look at what's going on right now with, for example, mental health and suicides and stuff like that. It's crazy to think. I mean, how things are going, but just imagine if it weren't for technology to keep us sort of connected with each other. Could you imagine how much worse things could have been? It's hard to even imagine. I mean, for me, it's hard to even imagine. Now, of course, my generation grew up around computers, but not to the extent that our kids are growing up with. Like, for example, I mean, I look at young kids playing with their tablets and their phones, and I'm like, well, back when I was a kid, the closest thing I had to technology was an old Packard Bell computer running Windows 95 with no internet access. We didn't get dial-up internet until about 1997, which when I was about 6 years old. So it's just crazy to think. Now, of course, you guys can draw your own conclusions from this, but it's just something to think about. If it weren't for technology, you imagine how things would have went with the shutdowns and the social distancing, the working from home, the schooling from home, you name it, all that stuff. Just take a moment and think about that. It's just crazy to think. So, I know this is kind of random, but I figured I had to post this because, I mean, you think about a lot of us, we tend to take stuff for granted. But just imagine if it weren't for technology, how things would have went throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. So anyways, hope y'all enjoyed this quick little thought video. Thanks for watching. Well, everybody, that's it for this video, but don't forget there's a lot more interesting stuff on the channel to check out. Also, if this is your first time visiting this channel, feel free to subscribe to Computer Channel, and also don't forget to tick the bell so that way you'll get notified of new video posts. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, but if you really didn't like it, there is the alternative option available as well. Also, feel free to check out my second channel, CubeComp MTDX. There you'll find videos about bicycling, weather, elevator tours, and all sorts of other neat, interesting stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to come back, and thank you for your support.